could tilt it a little bit. Oh, you gotta press this, right?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah. All right, we good.
All right, I think we're live. If you guys heard the beginning, sorry about that. You good? All right. Welcome to the chat room where we're not talking about the Sprint T-Mobile merger. I think that's been beat to death. We're going to move on from that. Back is Floyd.
Yeah, I'm back again.
All right, this will not be another hour and a half. The Cavs are on, Sixers are on. Can't be an hour and a half. Okay?
Nah. We're in and out today.
All right, we gotta trust the process tonight.
TTP.
All right, couple of housekeeping items. First, we want to say thank you to everyone who came out to the networking event last night, where I know I talked more about basketball than investing, but I did talk about some investing. So I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and we'll let you know about the next one soon at some point. Also, I am doing a presentation on fundamental analysis here at 16th and Washington, we want to call it, at 6:30 on May 17th. From what I've seen, I probably do the most informative free presentation. Now, I haven't seen that much, but from what I've seen, it's really good. So again, May 17th, 6:30, want to learn about fundamental analysis, come on down. I'll be up here, absolutely free. You'll definitely worth your time. And also, we're doing one on May 31st at 6:30 here, 16th in Washington, on short selling, which is basically a way to make money when the market goes down. This will not be taught by me because I don't have the balls to do it. It's terrifying.
Yeah, being taught by me is one of the things I like to do the best. I'm a huge short seller, and it's just a good way to, if not anything else, just to know how to do it. When you're on the other side of the trade, you just understand like how other people are thinking, even if you don't do it. Like when I first started understanding about short selling, I still wasn't doing it, but it just gave me a different perspective about how to think in my long trades, like what the short sellers are thinking. So that gave me different ideas for when I wanted to get long, to understand when to buy. If I was on the other side, what I would be covering. So those type of things are really important.
No, that's actually a really good point. So, short selling, 31st, 6:30. Fundamental analysis, May 17th, 6:30. You can RSVP at wearestocktraders.com. That is, again, you can RSVP at wearestocktraders.com. All right, now that's taken care of. We're going to start with the biggest publicly...
Disclaimers, please.
We do that at the end. Let's move on to the end.
Okay.
Move to the end. Let's start with the biggest public company out there, Apple. They reported earnings on May 1st. They beat Wall Street estimates when it comes to revenue and EPS, and they also announced a $100 billion buyback and a 16% dividend increase. What did you guys think about the quarter? I
thought it went as expected. The iPhone 10 did really well. And, you know, Apple is doing really, really well. As far as, I remember you were saying about, this is a question I got for you. I remember you were saying about you don't feel like they're like a growth company. I still feel like they're growing. And like what do you feel about that? Like, I know they do dividends and things like that, but I mean, they've grown a lot in the last couple of years. And I still feel like, you know, they can go like way higher. Like, what do you think?
For me, you know, I'm looking at them and I'm just saying, when I, on my free time and during my job, when I look at growth, I'm looking at somebody that's going to give me at least between 10 to 15% top line growth. I'm just not going to get it from Apple.
Well, this quarter they had 16.
This quarter they did. This quarter they did. But overall, if you're kind of looking at it, you're looking at, from my view, they have a couple other segments that are going to help them out going forward. But, the heydays of Apple and having extreme growth are just not there, in my view. I kind of look at them and saying, when you think about this is a company that since 2004 they bought back close to 33% of their shares outstanding. They got another 12% that they're going to buy back. So when you kind of look at everything and say, okay, 12%, 2018, you buy some back 2019, that's probably 50% shares outstanding that they're going to buy back. And from my view, buybacks are really pushing them. And if you're a stockholder, that's really been one of the things that has pushed Apple. I mean, there's not too many. They've actually bought back more stock than, a majority of the S&P 500 companies. Yeah. So, and they're sitting on a ton of cash. They're not, in my view, they're not deploying the cash.
I was about to say.
They're not deploying the cash. They're, by you buying back the shares. I mean, I think that helps people that are shareholders. Unfortunately, I actually sold out the stock a couple months ago. So
I still own it.
So I'm a little salty about that.
They have what, $250 billion? They spent $100 billion on buybacks. I mean, what?
Right. I really want to know
They
if
got
they have
another
something
150
in the
still
works.
to
Maybe
put
like,
out
do
there.
they have like a big deal they're looking to maybe do? Like, they got all that money, and I feel like
right,
they could do a lot of stuff with it if they really want to. So I'm looking to see if maybe they decide to purchase something with or do something besides that with their money.
See, I think they're waiting. I don't know if they're just trying to be like a razor and a razor blade model. I'm not sure. They might be trying to do something different. I'm not sure. The thing that worries me is, yes, the services did well. That was $9.2 billion.
I was about to say, I think the iPhone 10 was like the number one phone like in that quarter.
That was, but it wasn't a lot of iPhone growth. It was a lot of the revenue came from the pricing. And so my thing is, well, how much can they really raise prices?
I was about that. Yeah, I don't think people. I mean, I think people would accept it gradually, kind of like how we talked about like Amazon with gradually increasing the prime. I think if they gradually increase the phone, I don't think people would notice, especially because now the way they do stuff is they pay by monthly now. Like, so most people ain't buying it flat out, so they don't really care anyway. It'd be like another $1 or $2 a month on their bill. So like they got like crafty ways to like go up on stuff.
But I feel like they gotta add something to get that value to go up. Like they make it like this phone was bigger, so they can easily justify that to most people. Like, oh yeah, you gotta pay more for this. Like the features are nice too, but I think they need something that's easy for the consumer to see like why you would pay up. And at this point, I don't know how much bigger they can make these phones. I don't know what else they can do. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm a shareholder. I'm going to continue to hold it, but it's not a huge position in my portfolio. But that's the only thing that concerns me is that the iPhone growth really came from pricing, and it's 62% of their revenue.
Yeah.
So at some point, they're going to have to do something.
And if you're looking at for them, they have all that cash, and if you kind of think about it and say, okay, well, what are some of the projects that you're pursuing internally that are actually going to create you some capital, and you can actually fund it via cash. And you look at Apple and you look at their balance sheet, what they call a cash flow return on invested capital, that's consistently going down over the past 2 years, and they have a ton of cash. So what that tells me is that your some of your new products or what you have in the pipeline really isn't going to push the innovation. I mean, I think, in some respects, this is probably why I'm more of a fan of Amazon than I am of Apple.
No, I definitely could see that because they're always looking to push the envelope, so Apple's a little safe. I would call it the safe investment. I mean, the good investment because you kind of know what you're getting, the reputation, I mean, as far as, but they're not like looking to push the envelope or to be creative and to do something different that, might could be risky, but also, it could really put them into a different level, as far as to get that growth that some people might be looking that they can't do. Like,
yeah, and I think some of the problem is just expectations. Like, you have to top the iPhone. That's going to be really hard to do. Like, that changed the whole landscape of like technology and everything around the world. So to make something else that can do that is going to be really tough.
I mean, you don't think they can though?
That's better than the iPhone? I don't know.
Do they have the? I mean,
they got the money to do it.
They have the money, but do they have the culture? Do they have the innovative minds there, or are they just now in and let us do these, small upgrades and make a little bit more money and keep it going?
Or even I was thinking like maybe even if they wasn't innovative as far as doing something different, maybe a partnership with someone that might have something that people want or things like that. Like, cause like even when I thought like the partnership that they had when they bought some the Beats by Dre or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really see like what we were expecting to see from that. Like, so even if it's to do something like that, to partner with someone that's big and collaborate and bring something to like a phone that we haven't seen before or that people haven't thought of, like, I feel like they still can do something like that if they wanted to.
Yeah, and it's tough because I know they're very secretive about what's going on. So,
right.
You never know what they have there. All right, well, moving on to as good as Apple was to as bad as Snapchat was. They reported on Tuesday as well, and they reported inline EPS, but revenues came in below expectations, really because of the app redesign. And that led management to tell the Wall Street that Q2 revenue growth is going to decelerate substantially this year.
First of all, I don't even like the fact that we're even talking about.
You gotta talk about it. It's a popular story.
It's
a lot of millennials jumped in this stock. I think that's one of the reasons.
Absolutely.
Right. But here's
a teaching moment.
Absolutely.
So
I agree with you 100%.
You had a ton of millennials jump into this stock. And I know a couple people, and I'm pretty sure we all on this panel know a couple people via some of our social media feeds that were definitely all into the Snapchat. But it was a flawed business model when it came out. When you think about it, when you go IPO, you're either going IPO for two reasons. One, because you're because you're a PE or a VC firm trying to unlock your capital and trying to get that back. Or you actually think that this is going to do well. So you have, if you think about it, I just told you it's either a 0 or 1. That's it. You're either going to do well or you're not, or it's just going to, nothing's ever going to happen. So how did you know
it was a 0 rather than
when you look at it,
I know.
Instagram, look, man. Oh, gosh.
He's probably going to say the same thing that I said.
I know.
Instagram stories. Instagram basically took their platform and said, we're going to run with it. And I looked at my own, own people that I followed off Snap that actually use all types of social media. When I started noticing some of the people that are avid social media users that were on Instagram, Facebook, blogging, on Snapchat, started getting off Snapchat, I was like, all right, that's the sign right there. But for me, a telltale is that, and here's the difference between old tech and new tech and the way they roll things out. In the past, in the 2000s, early 2000s, when tech companies were coming to market, they would come to market with a finished product. Now they do it in stages. Snapchat could have done this in stages, and this lets you know what type of management that you're dealing with. Yep. Because had you had good management that, and it's look, they've done a great job to get from point A to point B, and I'm not dissing them on that. But had they actually taken a step back and said, let's test this in a user market of our power users first, get their feedback, then push it out to the rest, you're able to get that input and be able to make those adjustments and have a better product. They just put out a product because they felt like this is where we're going, without getting any real insight.
That was my biggest takeaway from the call. When they talked about the redesign and how it fit their vision, there was nothing mentioned about the users and that they wanted this to happen. Snapchat will have a vision of you have your friends separate from the celebrities that you follow. No one wants that. No one asked for that. No one was looking for that. They just did that. And so what happened was user growth decelerated during the quarter. It actually was it was lower in March than the average came in for the whole quarter. And then advertisers started to leave. So basically what they do, if they were a club owner, and if you're on a club, you need to bring the girls in or bring the guys in, and that brings in the money. They neglected the girls completely and just said, this is the club we're going to run, and if you don't like it, don't come. And people really didn't come. And as much as it was down 20%.
Well, people did come. The ones that came, they just left early. Yeah. But they didn't see the girls. They have to go to a different place.
But it's down 20%, and I think it can go lower strictly on the fact that they had 54% revenue growth this quarter, which just seems remarkable. But when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, they were up. They had over 200% revenue growth last year, And Facebook, this same quarter, had 50% revenue growth. And Facebook sells at a cheaper valuation when it comes to price to sales than Snapchat. So, like, why in the world would I buy Snapchat at a higher valuation, and management's telling me that their revenue growth is going to decelerate next quarter? It makes no sense. And I just think this thing gets I wouldn't say a lot lower, but I think it goes lower before it goes higher.
It's like, this is the prime case of a story of why you try to stay away from IPOs. Like, this is the prime case, because management has to get used to dealing with investors. Yeah. They actually have to think about running a profitable business. Yeah. If you think about a lot of the quote unquote unicorns, they were never big on running a profitable business. When you go public, it's all about being able to run a profitable business, or at least be able to, accounting wise, have a profitable business. Snap doesn't. Snap burns through cash.
They're not profitable.
Yeah, they're not
it's
profitable.
Not to be profitable, but you gotta have a path to profitability. Oh yes. Yeah, we're gonna scale this much because we're gonna get from A to C on the scale wise, and that's gonna make us profitable. They told you in the notes, like, in the S1, like, yeah, we have no plan. We don't know how we're gonna get there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm appalled that people would really believe that, when you really think about it, that
it doesn't surprise me.
That they would really think that Snap would do well.
No,
because just based off of
the story was it's going to be just like Facebook.
But it can't be.
Just people like to dream.
Because Facebook is,
check out the books on Instagram.
It's powerful.
People just like to dream. It's crazy.
Like, you can't go against the king when the king has more money and power than you. They're just going to use their power against, like, you, and just because it's a copycat league. You can be innovative in that field, but if you don't have the reputation that makes people want to stick with you, like, they're going to go with the people that they feel like know what they're doing for sure. So if you got a choice of Snap and Facebook, and they both do exactly the same thing, who are you going to bet on? I'm going to bet on someone who's been there, done that, and knows this, and not just like some up-and-coming hot shot who think they can just come and screw up the space. We just come in here, we're just going to wreck stuff. Like, no, we're going to go with the people that we trust. And at the end of the day, once Mark Zuckerberg knew that he could just copy whatever they did, and then people would just go right from Snap back to Facebook or Instagram, it was nothing that Snap could do to, like, get out of that. And that's where they went wrong at.
And what are you seeing in the chart? Are you seeing it like it could go lower?
Yeah, it's definitely going to go lower. Yeah, that's not even a question. I think this thing goes under 10, by a few weeks or so. I think it'll probably retest this high. What is the last level right here? So right now, as of today, it's at 1097, and I think it's going to try to retest that and go lower and break under 10. I think it's going to be single digits.
Hey, but you know what? I think there's two takeaways you could take from Snap. The first one is, yes, you should buy what you know, but you should do your homework also. And the second one is, Al, you basically said it. No one man should have all this power, man.
Yeah,
they don't deserve all that power.
They don't know what they have,
Kanye.
And they know who they're dealing with.
You can't bring up Kanye.
But this is my thing,
you cannot bring up Kanye. Let it cool off.
But back to what you said, like, you need to, you should buy what you know. But did they really know Snap?
You should start with what you know.
Hey, you know what though?
But I feel like they would know something like Facebook more than Snap because of the history. Facebook's been out for what? 14 years, maybe.
You know what the problem? I don't think a lot of millennials, especially, did not know Facebook on Instagram.
Hey,
and they don't really use Facebook.
But that goes back to what Floyd was saying about, you got to do your research. You got to find out what is going on. You can't just assume
do your research.
But you know what? You know who snapped it? You know who snapped last weekend? Thanos snapped this snap all day.
I didn't see the movie yet. Don't do that.
Hey,
I'm going tomorrow.
I thought you went last week.
I was supposed to go, but my daughter actually broke her wrist, so I had to take her to the doctors, and it just screwed my week up. So I'm going to go tomorrow. So yeah, don't do that to me.
Snap.
But yeah, I heard it was a great movie. But yeah, Snap, it's just in over his head, and I mean, hopefully it digs itself out, off the ground or whatever. But I just don't see it.
Yeah. All right, that was for you, Ron Sims. You asked us to talk about Snapchat. Did that for you. All right, moving on. We gonna talk about Facebook?
But sorry. Oh. Right before we go back, I don't want that to discourage any of the young investors who put their money in Snap to feel like, because if it didn't work out for you that this is the reason why we don't invest. No, it's not. You just have to do a better job of understanding what you're investing in, but still do it, because this happens to everybody. Like, nobody has investments. All their investments work. Yeah. So don't just use this as a discouragement if you put all your money in or whatever. Just go back to the drawing board, figure out what you did wrong, and then just come back better the next time.
Yeah. And if you want to learn fundamental analysis, come out to my session on May 17th, 6:30. I'll walk you through everything. I promise. All right, you guys want to talk about Facebook?
Talk about whatever you want.
This new dating service?
Facebook it goes down to the DM for real. So think what?
Would you use the Facebook dating service?
I would not.
We are both engaged. Would you? If you were single?
I'm single. I wouldn't use it. Oh well, does it cost money?
That is free. I should say
it's free. Nah, I mean, I'm not big on like internet dating sites anyway. But me personally, no, I probably wouldn't use it. But I don't see anything wrong with it, because like we said, it already happens anyway. It's just it's just kind of like on the low. People are in people's DMs all day long, so it's just a little bit more out in the open. And it just makes more people feel comfortable about what they're doing, because I guess it might be approved of now because they actually have a site.
I think it's very interesting for them because you're looking at it, and somebody was saying, you just get a whole bunch of older people on it, but maybe that works out well for them. I mean, I never looked at how if we're going to be looking at that demographic, I haven't looked at how ourtime.com is doing in regards. I didn't know how if they were or weren't.
I only know because I follow Match.com. So, they own all of them, and their horse is Tinder.
So but okay. So if you're thinking about this, like the one thing you can say that would make this Facebook dating app really feasible is the fact that that you just can't set up. It's hard for you. You can set up a fake Facebook site, but it's kind of hard. You know what I'm saying? You can get at least get a better feel of people. I do think that they look at this and say it's an add-on because they probably have all the information available. They have all the algorithms because of everything that people post and the pictures, and you can really run some algorithms behind the scene to be able to hook people up that would have similar interests.
I was about to say, they probably know what people's likes are, dislikes and things. Yeah,
geographic location.
They definitely already have all the tools already there because of just the content already.
So just think, you don't have to go to Tinder, you don't have to go to Match.com, you don't have to go to Happen, or Plenty of Fish. You can just really hop right on Facebook. And if you think about it, they're making everything almost like a one-stop shop.
I was about to say, you don't have to go anywhere but here.
Yeah.
You get everything you need right on Facebook.
Everything you need.
And another thing is, a lot of all those online dating platforms are built on Facebook. Like, you give them access to your photo you use from there. So they have that information as well as their own information. So there's chances they could make better matches.
They could.
It'd be interesting to see how it hurts Match. I have no idea. I think it could go either way. Cause people use Tinder, maybe they're ingrained in it and they stick with that.
I'm sure people will try it. If people are in the online dating scene, I'm pretty sure that they're definitely going to try it out.
This is the online dating, because I met my fiance online dating.
Oh, wow.
And to be honest, it's a numbers game, okay? You want to cast the biggest net you can and see what you come up with. So if
it never worked for me. It never worked for me.
Tinder, you're going to use.
You had the right pictures, Al. You got somebody with your shirt off, man. Shirt off.
I don't know if they want to
dating
see
profile.
I don't think they want to see that.
But you just want to cast a wise net. So I think people will give it a try. And if it works, they'll stick with it. If it doesn't, then they'll just go back to what they were using.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll hurt them at all. I think it might attract just other users that don't use Facebook that use dating sites that
Now,
but so you bring up an interesting point. It might, even if it doesn't attract a lot of users, what it will do is it will take a portion of your time. So if you think about it, right now you have apps and services competing for your time.
Yeah.
So now it occupies a chunk of time. So what can it do with that time? It can also get more advertising dollars. So I think, from that play, I think it's a very smart play for them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
it's kind of what took you so long. It's already been happening. Like I know a friend had, still friends with him. He was in college. But he has old messages, so he sent to people saying, "Hey, stranger girl." So it's been happening for a while.
Yo, Gotti.
Yeah, it definitely goes down.
All right, moving on to Tesla, which they beat on. They reported earnings yesterday, and they beat on revenues and EPS. But the interesting part came at the conference call, where pretty much Elon Musk he pulled a Kanye. It's the best way to put it.
He pulled a Kanye.
Those flashy lights.
He cut the analyst off on a question, called it boring. He talked to a YouTuber for about 20 minutes on the analyst call. What do you guys think about this performance?
Let me tell you why I'm great. That's exactly what that was about. And, in full discretion, I think I probably still have some Tesla stock somewhere. But, he's going through a tough time. If you think about it, he's been a lot of bad press for them. He's always been a darling. And so now he has to change the image, and he's struggling with that. And on top, I think, what was it, Mychel has a lawsuit against him for some pending IP type of lawsuit, because they have about some intellectual property, along with they lost a contract to Mychel for, I think, close to 800 trucks to Anheuser-Busch InBev. So he's feeling a little salty right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of the frustration came from the coverage about the accident.
Yes.
Because and this has been the thing about autonomous driving. It's not that it's going to eliminate car accident. It's just going to decrease them drastically. And so when he's upset because he's like the Chipotle thing, where every time he's worried about every time there's an accident and his car is autonomous, it's going to be a bunch of hoopla. Whereas really we're ignoring all of the other accidents that happen every day,
right?
Just to focus on this one. So I get his frustration, but you can't act like that on the conference call.
No,
so I think that's your choice to be there. Bezos doesn't go on his conference calls. I think Jenny Rometty from IBM doesn't go on her conference call. Just don't go.
That's what I was getting at. That's what I wanted to know. Like, who is in his camp that's like around him to tell him, like, bro,
I don't
like,
think he has
don't
anybody.
do that.
I don't think he has anybody.
He
I think everyone looks up to him and calls him a genius.
He reminds me of like the
sounds
Jerry
like somebody
Jones.
we know.
He reminds me of like the Jerry Jones before. Like, he hired his son to, like, do everything. Like, you know how Jerry Jones always wanted to be. Or the Al Davis. Like, I have to be involved in everything. And it, like, kind of screws up or rubs people the wrong way, some of the things that you think or say. And I just feel like it should be people around him to tell him, like, listen, you work on what you're good at, which is innovative thinking and all. Like, let us talk to the people. Because, obviously, every time you say something, it just causes, like, a circus.
Are you talking about him, or are you talking about a performer? I just want to know, because that sounds like it could be applied to somebody else that's going through some issues in social media right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of
until the album drop, and no one's gonna care.
Yeah,
it applies to both of them. But I always wonder that, like, especially when you're running a company like that, you have to have people around you to tell you just to be quiet, bro. Like, just don't do that.
I mean, we see a lot in sports. Like, sometimes you have a bunch of yes men around you.
Yeah.
Who just want to go along for the ride. They don't want to shake the boat. So they just don't say anything. So
I think the one thing is that, you're right, Mike. When he's looking at it, he's like, well, it was one bad test. You got to look at autonomous driving and say, okay, how many thousands of miles have we not had a crash or a fatality, and then we have one. And on top of that, and then look at, all the other stuff. He's like, look what else I did in SpaceX. Like, I done stuff that NASA could never do. And then he, he's looking at it saying, I have all these other wins, and you're commenting on, now granted, a loss of life is a bad thing regardless. But he's like, you're commenting on the smallest thing that has happened in regards to what this company is going through. You know, come on.
And I will answer him. Welcome to social media in 2000.
I was about to say. And I understand what he's trying to say, but you got to understand it's not about what you say. It's about the people that are listening and what their perception of which they make it seem like you don't care. And even though you're trying to prove a point, like, you know, that's not what those type of people want to hear. So you can't say that stuff public. Like, you know, people aren't going to take it.
And the real issue with this is that they are going to need capital this year. Well, he said they're going to be cash flow positive in Q3. He kind of walked it back. He kind of walked it back this quarterly conference call. Like maybe, but they're going to need cash sometime soon.
They are. They're burning through $1 billion a year. $1 billion a quarter. I'm sorry, $1 billion $1 billion last quarter.
This is not the time to upset the analyst community and the finance community right now. When you're going to need them to go back for you to get the money.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess he's looking at us saying, "I'm going to issue these shares, and let me tell you why I'm great."
Yeah, it probably has worked because every time I think the last couple of times they have issued shares, the stock's going up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like a buy the rumor, sell the news, but the opposite. Whereas, they got to issue shares, let's sell everything. Then once they actually issue shares, we can buy it safe.
Yeah.
All right, we're up against it at 6:30. I think that's it for today. Anything looking forward to next week?
Next week, I'll be honest.
Next week? Next week?
Yeah. I leave for Hong Kong at the end of next week. Yeah, I'll be in Hong Kong. I'd honestly say, you know, I'm looking more towards some of the things going on in the Middle East. So, you know, I'm looking at what's going on in Saudi Arabia, and how are some of the resolutions going to be solved with Iran. Looking at more of Malaysia and how the Chinese One Belt, One Road initiative is really helping them out, and how that's actually impacting the relationship between North Korea and South Korea. So that's what I'm really looking at right now.
What about you,
Al? As far as what am I looking for next week? I mean, it's nothing really on the agenda that really, you know, like interests me. Like,
well, you have Disney you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, besides that, I mean, I really think they're going to do well. Just, you know, with this movie and just what they've been doing the past couple of. I think they're going to.
But you ain't see the movie though.
I did, but I know it did so much money in the first weekend.
I'm just telling you know.
So I know it's gonna be really good. So I am looking for Disney, but I think it's to be expected. So I'm not really looking that much forward to it. It's just gonna be like, oh, that's what I thought, kind of deal. So
okay, I'm looking forward to NVIDIA's earnings next Thursday. It's one of my largest positions. I'm really just curious to see the impact the impact crypto's having on them. I kind of hope it's not as much, so we can kind of move on from this story, because that's really what's trading on right now, and get back to the actual fundamentals about the gaming and the data center and autonomous driving. But AMD reported a good quarter, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I like AMD and NVIDIA. They're both really good. I think they're going to do really well. Their earnings.
Yeah. And they've been really holding that 220 level. That's been the level.
Yeah, I was about to say that 220, in between like 210, 220. So I think they're going to, you know, blow out it. Like, they probably come close to like the highs. I think it'll probably gap up somewhere over like the 240s or whatever. And then I think it'll break the 250s soon. So I'm looking for that.
Oh, well, that's music to my ears.
I know. You had so how long have you had that position?
Since October 2006.
I was about to say, you got in when it was like under like 70, 80 bucks.
And the funny thing about that was I purchased an XPI, which is another semiconductor company, on a Tuesday. And that Thursday, Qualcomm announced that they were going to try to buy them. So since that was already in, I sold that and then bought NVIDIA. So if Qualcomm never bought an XPI, I would never purchase NVIDIA.
Yeah.
So it's
probably one of the best things you ever did, and it's really it wasn't even on my radar until like it got to like 130 or something.
No.
And then it's just been pretty much just going like straight up.
Because that was worried about the game. It was very volatile. But when I had the games locked in for the SPI, I was like, all right, let it roll. Like, that point.
Right.
All right, so that's it for this week. Tune in next week at the chat room. Thanks, Floyd, for filling in again.
No problem, man.
This week. Thanks, Albert, for showing up to work. All right.
Are you going to do the disclaimer?
Oh, yeah. I almost forgot. Oh, snap.
See, that's why I wanted to do it early.
Yeah, but people...
You got to hear the disclaimer, man.
Look it up sometimes. You're testing new things. I'm going to
I don't need it going down in my DM, somebody telling me I gave them some bad
you match
advice.
them on the dating site.
And they
by
lost,
the way.
they lost all their money, and they're blaming me because, nah, I'm sorry.
All right, so all opinions expressed on this podcast are solely the opinions of Al, Mychel, and guests, and do not reflect the opinions of We Are Stock Traders. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied on for investment decisions.
Bye.
All right, go Sixers.
Due diligence. Trust the process.
TTP.